Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio podcast and television show. I'm your host, life coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Johnny Fernandez, expert love coach. So, you know what we're going to be talking about today? Love and dating. To be specific, we are going to be talking about how high value or high achieving women can find love after a heartbreak. So, we're putting it in a little box today, a little niche today, which I haven't actually spoken about before. But we know that when we're hurt, then it's very hard to trust. And that's what Johnny and I are going to be focused on today, specifically, dating after a heartbreak. So, welcome, Johnny.
Thank you so much for having me, Myrna. I'm so glad to be here and good to meet you who is listening or watching.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Happy to have you here and happy to dive into this conversation. All right, well, let me give you guys a brief introduction. Johnny Fernandez is an expert love coach with nearly 2 decades of experience coaching with his wife, Lara Fernandez. They specialize in helping high achieving single women navigate today's challenging dating landscapes. Johnny's journey is deeply personal. His wife, Lara, after experiencing heartbreak and failed relationships, realized that if she wanted to create a lasting, fulfilling love, she needed to completely change her approach to dating. This new approach attracted Johnny. Together, they've now helped thousands of women learn this new approach so they too can attract love as well. Johnny grew up in a household of domestic violence, drug use, and dysfunction, leading him to be highly passionate about helping women make better choices in men. Excuse me. Their dedication to their work is fueled by their deep understanding of love, relationships. I got something in my throat. Masculine, masculine and feminine dynamics. Their dedication to their work is fueled by their deep understanding of love, relationships, masculine, feminine dynamics, and healthy, high functioning communication. As an educator, curriculum creator, and lead teacher, Johnny's expertise is particularly suited to helping women who are looking for love but refuse to settle. He helps them stand out in a crowded dating landscape and attract committed minded quality men. That's what we want. As co founder of Feminine Radiance and Courage Institute, he is passionate about helping women create the love lives they desire and deserve. Very, very true. Awesome. So, since we are kind of focusing on heartbreak today, Johnny, I want to start off by asking you, can you share some of the common emotional challenges women face after a breakup and why these experiences can sometimes feel so overwhelming?
Sure, absolutely. And just to provide a little context, we work with professional women, and so generally what that means is they've had a certain measure of success in their professional lives. And so when we experience heartbreak in the context of a life that is actually going well, there's several emotions that can come up. One is the one that is least talked about, but it's basically embarrassment and shame over
Mm,
like, how come I can't make this thing work?
right.
And who do I even talk to about how bad this is going and how much hurt I feel? And they're embarrassed about, hey, I'm rocking and shocking and doing really well. What's going on here? And that kind of leads often to a feeling of like, what's wrong with me? Now, a lot of times the more common thing is what's wrong with men these days, and we can talk about that. And what's wrong with the dating world, and we can talk about that. But the most painful thing is the embarrassment and shame can lead to what's wrong with me. And I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert here, ladies. There's nothing wrong with you that can prevent you from actually having love. So we can talk about that. So that's one of them is the embarrassment and the shame. And the other thing is simply the loss of what you imagined was going to happen. Because it's a natural thing to when you're with someone, even if you're not married, you start envisioning your future. And so and it can be something as simple as you know, I'm gonna have somebody to go to so and so's wedding.
Right,
Uh, 6 months from now, and then you break up, and then you're going by yourself or
alone,
with a
right.
friend or your cousin or something like that. So, but there's also just losses of those images that we have in our future for our life with that man. Um, and in the context of what we're used to in our professional life is, you are in high school. You want to go to college, you want to go to a good college, you start planning your grades, and then what happens? You get into college. And so you kind of like make plans, work for it, and then you see the result. Then you're in college, you're like, I want to get a degree, then I want to get a job, then I want to move up. So you kind of can see those things happening. Whereas in your love life, you often don't see that forward progression, and it feels like you're just kind of wandering around, and that can be painful. And so there's the loss of everything that you're imagining. And as a successful woman, you're just not used to that. I'm not saying that everything you do turns to gold.
Oh,
I'm just
right.
saying that, that for the most part, it's not like you tried to go to college and then you just couldn't, right? Or you tried to graduate, you just couldn't. You tried to get a job, you just couldn't. No, you kept working at it, and that gives a little hint to what to do here, and we can talk about that. But those are some of the emotions: the loss, the shame, and then just the basic pain of just like everything that you did enjoy about that relationship. And usually when it breaks up, there's a mix. There's some good things, there's some bad things, right? Either more on your end or more on his end. But there is just the pain of that. And when you're a teenager and have your puppy love, you think that pain is like I'll just never recover. Like, can you just
Right.
die of a broken heart? I think there's a song
Yeah.
out there, Mama
Yeah.
Can Die from a Broken Heart. So we've all felt that. And then we realize, actually, I'm not going to die from a broken heart, and I go on. But that doesn't change the fact that in that moment, it feels like I could die from this broken heart. I can hardly
Oh,
breathe,
yeah.
and all of that. So those things happen. And then there's the fallout of a heartbreak, which can be really multifaceted. You're showing up at work a little less clear, a little less sharp, and a little less confident. You're maybe doing some stress eating or stress shopping, right? Retail therapy, or kind of bouncing around to somebody else. And
Mm,
so you're with another guy, you're lowering your standard because you're not feeling
right.
so good, and you're just trying
Mm,
to get some comfort. And those types of things, the fallout of that can happen
yeah.
as well.
All right. So let me circle back a couple of things there.
Mhm.
One, um, you mentioned in your bio regarding the masculine feminine dynamics. And like I mentioned to you before we started recording, that I have had a lot of, even several, four or so interviews in the show, and we specifically talk about high achieving, high value women. And what the dynamic there is, a lot of times those marriages have a problem because the women are operating in masculine energy because of the fact that they're go-getters and they're successful. And if you're go-getters and successful, you're not in feminine energy, you're in actually in masculine energy. So when we talk about heartbreak, what percentage of the heartbreak that you're seeing is caused by this masculine feminine dynamic energy?
Well, I want to kind of zoom out a little bit, which is that in our society right now, we're it's not your imagination that the dating world and relationship world is harder than ever. This has been proven by research and polls and things like that. It's never been more difficult. Now, there's a lot of different reasons for it, but one of the reasons, one of the biggest ones that we see is that we're in a society that is making efforts to feminize men and masculinize
Women.
women.
Right.
And so when you do that, the whole masculine feminine dynamic is all, jacked up. It's
Right.
not going to be good. And so you mentioned high achieving and high value women. And I want to make a distinction there because a high achieving woman is not necessarily a high value woman
Mhm.
to a high value man. And in fact, it is not the high achieving that in terms of professional success that causes the masculine feminine dynamics. It is the lack of understanding of how to kind of like switch gears
Mm.
from high achieving masculine driven woman at work into a more feminine role, which doesn't mean you just sit around and you just be a doormat. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually
Yeah.
talking about being just as successful. Like we teach our clients how to be as successful in your love life and use the same success secrets that you used to be successful in your professional life, but in your love life. But it really, what we see is that most women, professional women, they live in their masculine
Masculine.
and
Right.
then they try to put on the feminine like a sweater. And so they're like, hey, I put on
Mm.
this nice dress, I put on this lipstick, I did my nails, I had a mani-pedi. What's the problem? Of course I'm feminine. Look at me. But
Right.
that's not it. And so what we help our clients do and what is really necessary is that you flip it where you live in your feminine and then when you go to work, you put on
The
the
masculine.
masculine just like you're putting on
Got
a
you.
sweater
Right.
and that changes things. Now, that is much easier said than done because generally speaking, you've had decades of acknowledgement, recognition, and good things happen to you by being in that masculine mode.
Right.
On a day-to-day basis, you
Hmm.
are getting recognized, appreciated, respected uh, when you do the things that a high-achieving masculine man does. We call it the design of your life architecture, which is probably a little bit much to get into here, but your life architecture needs to be shifted because otherwise, that you said what percentage? I would say almost everyone.
Wow.
Almost everyone, that is the issue. And that has grown. Now we've been doing this for 20 years. So
Hmm.
that has grown over the last 10 years, especially because over the last 10 years,
Hmm.
there's been a big push in society to basically say that men and women are identical,
Are
which is
equal.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is different than, have equal rights, equal, all of that, equal value, but identical and that there's no difference. This is just not proven by evolution, biology, spiritual texts. Like that's just not, we're not identical. We're obviously both equal in value, but we're not identical. However, when you have that idea in your mind, then you start to look at things and you hear it in language, right? Like we talk about helping high achieving women attract the man of their dreams, not person, man. Because if you're heterosexual, you want a man, but
You want a
our
man. Right.
language is become so gender neutral that your thought process is a reflection of your language and if the belief is that everybody is identical, then you're never going to be able to even grasp the masculine feminine dynamics, much less be successful with that.
Right. So yeah, that's very true. I mean, like I said, I've had a lot of conversation around this, and that's why I wanted to start here. One of the guys he said, that I was interviewing, he said to tell the women to put their balls in a drawer when they get home. But I like what you say, keep the feminine on and maybe put the feminine in a drawer when you get to work. But one of the things that I think is the main problem in this dynamic is because if you're a high achieving woman, and whether you, I'm assuming you got to be in masculine energy because you got to get things done. And one of the worst things that a person that wants to get things done is having a man that's sitting around and doing nothing. So she will nag, she will say, get up, she will say, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And that will cause the man to say, well, you know, I'm a man around here. And so it causes that friction because yeah, so it's very hard to be in the feminine and see things not getting done because
Right.
it's against your nature. Right.
Well, here's the thing. The
Mhm.
the woman is what we call the REN, the relationship establisher and navigator. And if you don't know how to REN effectively, you will actually be a co-creator of a dynamic like that, and you don't know why it's happened. It may appear that it's about the guy sitting around, but what is happening if you go backwards in time, there's a dynamic that is created because if the woman doesn't know how to rent effectively, she is inviting in a guy who will be perfectly happy sitting around on the couch while she does stuff.
Mhm.
And she will be pushing away the man who might be more masculine. But here's the thing, it's like a bell curve. There are some guys that they're just going to sit on the couch and play video games no matter what woman is in their life. And there's some guys that are just going to be go-getters. They're going to do stuff, achieve, accomplish, move up, no matter what woman comes in their life. Most men, however, are in the
In the
middle,
middle.
which is they're
Okay.
going to go with whatever way she's doing it because you as a woman have so much more power than you have ever been told. And the
Wow.
power is to flip that man's masculinity switch. And what's happening today is that most women are not flipping that man's masculinity switch. So the man is getting reinforced again and again and again that you
Wow.
can do pretty much nothing and still have sex, have a woman in your life. And so the woman is
Wow.
actually setting up the dynamic for that to be her reality. And so, how you get into, like, one of the reasons why we teach our clients specific dating skills is because how you even get into the conversation with the guy and who you show him that you are determines whether his masculinity switch gets flipped and he's like, oh, I got to be on my A game for this woman. Or if you're just like common like all the other women, well, he's just going to do whatever. Because, like, one of the little things is men are pretty much going to do what you let them get away with. That's just the bottom line. And a good man,
Wow, this is good stuff. I love it.
yeah, a
Yes.
good man wants to have a woman that calls out the best in him. He wants to have a woman, and not by pointing things out and stuff. There's a whole art and science to it. But he wants to feel like he had to work for this woman. He had to
Yes.
win her over. And what's happening now is women are doing mostly one of two things. One is you try to be cool chick. Oh no, we don't need to do all that. That's okay. That's all right. I don't need to, I'm not trying to be your girlfriend. That's all right. I'll be cool. And
Wow.
so cool chick is trying to just get along, go along, and then he'll realize how amazing you are. That's not going to be
That's
happening.
not gonna
I know it
work.
happens in the
No.
movies, but it doesn't happen. And
No.
then the other thing though is a woman will say, if I tell him everything, then he'll do it. And so she's basically coaching him on how to get the right answer. And that does not flip his masculinity switch. He knows what the right answer is to try to sleep with her and stuff like that. But that's not the woman that he wants to get married to. And that's not the woman that he wants to build a life with. That's a woman he'll sleep with and be with for a little while,
Mhm.
or even get married to until a woman that he really likes comes along. And
Wow.
happy in a relationship or having an affair or whatever the thing is, the issue is in both of those cases, the man's masculinity switch is not flipped. He's not called to be the best version of himself. And so you're not getting the best version of that man. This is why we see, like, nowadays people are getting married multiple times and stuff like that. I had my starter marriage and Lara had her first marriage and then me. But what we see is that the divorce rate goes up each marriage. So it's like in the 50% range in your first marriage. It's in the 70% range of divorce in
Sex
your second
right.
marriage. It's in the
Wow.
80% range in your third marriage. And the reason is because the people think that it's the other person instead of looking at what have I done. And this goes back to what I was saying, which is, ladies, you have a lot more power than you realize. And,
Wow.
some of these guys that are getting married second time and it's awesome. It's not that the guy became better, it's that he had a woman who brought out the best
The
in
best in him.
yeah.
Wow. Wow, this is good stuff. I've never gone on that angle. Never gone in that angle. And we do know this, that it's true that I had this guy once told me, I sit around all day trying to figure out how to make you happy.
Hmm?
But he was one to sitting around once. He said, I couldn't move. I just thought all day of what I'm going to do to make you happy. But that's not what you want either. But what I'm
No.
going with that is that the man does want to make a woman happy. And when he's doing something to make her happy, like providing what it'll love and all that kind of stuff, then he is feels like a man. So I get where you're going with
Well,
that.
that's part of the equation. If he
Okay.
does that, he has the potential to feel like a man, depending on her response to that.
Mm,
That's where you have more power than you realize. Because if you're like, well, damn, of course you should do that. That's not actually going to make him feel like a man. That's going to
yeah.
make him feel like I'm okay, I'm a good errand boy. And most
Mm,
of the time that's what women are doing. Why is that? Not because you're a bad person. You're having that modeled for you on television and movies
yeah.
and information. You're having
Wow.
that modeled, whereas the idea of
So
acknowledging
true.
that man is like, well, I don't want to go over the top. I don't want to be this and that. It's like, do you want to be happily married in 10, 20, 30 years? Or do you want to win some kind of award for never letting a man know that you appreciate him?
Wow.
And so being able to rend the relationship, we like our clients, they have men that want to break through walls for them, that want to like conquer the world for them because there's a certain way to bring out the best in a man, and just an ordinary guy can be like a king when the woman
Wow.
brings out that best in her, and then he not only wants to do things for her, but he does do things for her because they have a really healthy, thriving, passionate loop going on. And we had one client, and she's dating a guy. They're looking at rings and everything. But at one point, there was one Sunday when he came over to her house, and her car needed to be really washed. They had been driving somewhere and he wanted to wash the car, and he said, "Oh, She just happened to mention like, oh, I got to get the car washed because of all the dirt and everything." He's like, "No, I'll do that." And in fact, it looks like your tires need to da, da, da. So he's going on and he starts doing it, and she's like, "Oh, let me help." He goes, "No, no, no. Just sit there. Just be there." This was mind blowing to her because her whole thing that she was doing was sitting there getting sun. And he was busting his butt, washing the car, doing things with the tires and everything. To him, that was an incredible day of him working and her being
It is.
relaxed,
That's
right?
beautiful.
And so, but most women's instinct nowadays is, well, I have to contribute. I have to do something here, right? And it's like, you
Mhm.
are doing something.
You're
That's the
enjoying it. Right.
you're
You're letting
enjoying
him
it. And
serve you.
then
Right.
here's the
Okay.
key
Hmm.
is that you thank the man.
Of
Let
course.
him know how much you appreciate him. And you can get a lot of mileage because this woman, she's like expert level at this. You can go back to that day washing the car. You can get mileage out of that for a whole year. So what's happening for a whole year is that man is getting that feeling of I work hard for this woman and then I get respect and acknowledgement, and she's stacking that on other things that are happening. That man will bust through walls for her. He will do anything for her. He can't wait. It's really her that's like holding off the popping the question. He can't wait to give her a ring. And but that's not the normal experience. There's
No,
this
that's this
thing
is
of,
good stuff.
yeah.
Right. I mean, there's everything in life you've got to learn because you're right. Nobody knows how to run. Nobody knows. I mean, you read some books. I've read the book The Surrendered Wife, and they talk about stuff a little bit about that, how you make the man feel good by, acknowledging him and letting him do the work and all that kind of stuff. But Yeah, it's like that. This is good stuff. You don't have a book, right? They just have to come through your coaching program.
Yeah, they come in, women fly in to learn with us live and in person at our weekend. We have a Love Breakthrough Live weekend event, and that's
Wow.
where you learn because we're in an age, in an information age where we can kind of tune out information because there's so much. Whereas like before the internet, it was like, wow, information, that's incredible. Now all of us are suffering from information overload.
Overload, right?
And so I study, even though I'm out of formal education,
Hmm.
I still study education. And what's happening now is the way we learn, because we're in this information age, has shifted and changed. And so experiential learning is way more valuable and impactful now than information learning, reading,
Mm,
listening, whatever, simply
mm,
because there's so much. There's so
right.
much information, right? Most
I
people
like
are
that.
saying that they're suffering from information overload. So books are great, by the way. There's nothing like,
Yeah,
but what happens
listen,
is you
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 get
can't
information. Like I read a lot of books, and you're right. By the time I'm finished with one, I got on to the next. I don't remember what the last one
you
says.
can't
So
remember.
I know
And then
exactly
if
what
you
you
get
mean.
right, if you get stuck on something, you're like, wait a minute, didn't the other book say the opposite thing? But you're stuck, right? Because you can't ask either
Right,
one of the books a question.
right,
Well, why
right,
did you say
right.
this over here and this over there, right?
Yeah. I try to retain a little bit by going back and writing notes. But if you don't write notes, you lose everything. You
Yeah,
maintain maybe 1% or something.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, this is good. And, I just did some of my wrote down some of my goals, and some of my goals is to go to in-person seminars and things like that.
Hmm.
Because right, a lot of people don't do that because they cost a lot of money. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's one of my goals, and I like what you said that experiencing things and going to seminars is now the in this information overload age that's one of the best things to do. So that's amazing. All
Yeah,
right. Wow. I have yeah, I've learned a lot from our intro there,
right,
recognizing
right.
that I'm one of these women that don't know how to rent.
Yeah. Well, it's really an epidemic today, and
Yeah.
and when you look at the research, like more women are graduating from college than men. Women are moving up the corporate ladder at a faster rate than men. Obviously, men are still, doing fine, but the trend line is actually quite disastrous. And so we feel like we're on a mission to like save families and save society, kind of,
That's
because
beautiful.
without healthy, masculine, feminine, husband and wife, mother and father, without that, the whole society breaks
Yeah.
down, and we
Yeah.
we see that in
Yeah,
society.
that's the foundation. That's the
Yeah,
foundation. And when you build your house on the sand, guess what? It's going to topple,
there
right?
you go. There you
Hmm.
go. Yeah.
Okay, so that's amazing. Now, let's keep that concept. And we were talking about this woman that doesn't know how to rent, this man that just sits on the couch, or she nags him. In fact, it's really interesting. My daughter is married, and she is constantly having to tell her husband what he's not doing. I got to give her this, I'm going to send this to her even before it airs.
Yeah.
And the last time he said to her, "You're just becoming a nag." Right. Their marriage is not in trouble, but he's not doing what he's supposed to do. Right. And it's not necessarily in the relationship, it's about his health. He's not doing anything to help himself, he doesn't do anything for
Well, let's say this.
personal growth.
They're both not doing what they're supposed to do, because that's just, it's like she's speaking English and he's speaking French, and she's saying, "What's your problem?" And he's like, "I don't even speak that language." So when you're telling the man all the things that he's not, all the areas where he's falling short, what that does is that not only does it not flip his masculinity switch, it slams it shut and boards it and nails it down. Like there's no masculinity going to come out of that, because a
Wow.
self-respecting man simply cannot be nagged into being successful. He
Being
can't.
better.
Now, a
Right.
schlub can, a low ambition man, a kind of guy who has low self-worth, he can kind of go along with it because he doesn't think that much, but is that really the man you want to be married to? You
No.
know?
Yeah. Well, I know
So
that's not the right way to do it, but there's certain times when, you know, anyway, that was their last conversation because,
yeah,
he doesn't, he works, he doesn't really sit around the couch, but doesn't do anything else or doesn't go to work. But anyway,
yeah.
all right.
But
So,
that's the whole thing of the masculine feminine
right,
dynamic. And like
right.
all the women see so many different things because you're able to multitask. Your brain is literally created differently. Like in just one little thing, just to geek out for a moment. The left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. A lot of us know, like if you're left brain or right brain, a little more artistic, logical. Well, the connections between the two hemispheres, women have way more connections than men. So when men are like single track focused, it's not only because that's what we want to do, we literally can't do anything else because we can't look at all those things. And meanwhile, a woman will walk in a room and go, "Can't you see all the 10 different things that need to be done?" He's like,
Yeah,
"No, I just see
yeah,
that my chair is right there.
yeah,
That's all I see." And
yeah.
so when we understand the differences between men and women, and we can appreciate that no one is better than the other, but they are different, then you don't think, well, you're not doing anything because you don't care about me. You're not doing anything because you're a lazy butt, you know? And you realize like he literally doesn't see that or hear that, you know?
No,
And
he sees and hears it. He deliberately has no motivation to do it. So, all right, but where I was going to, so let's say that's your relationship. So you are this overachiever, you got married or in a relationship with a guy that doesn't do anything for you. And when I say he doesn't do anything for you, he doesn't do anything for you. All the things that you can cross off. And then you said, I've had enough. So I leave. But that's not really heartbreak. That's just a breakup. Or
well,
what I find,
there's some heartbreak with that because nobody gets into a relationship
right?
expecting it to end.
Okay.
There is going to be some heartbreak with that. Even if you're mad, there's still heartbreak.
Still heartbreak with that. Okay. But where I was going, a lot of these men, and I've had this personal experience, when they're with a strong woman, and let's say that she's a nag or she is a person that got her shit together, then they go find the one that makes them feel like a man because she doesn't demand anything from them, so they cheat, so the marriage ends and there's heartbreak. So our conversation today was, what should the woman do? What do you teach the women to do after something like the heartbreak? What are some of the things that what are some of the mistakes that they make? Maybe I would think that the woman would go in the next relationship and there she's going to say, you know what, I'm not going to tell him what to do. I'm just going to stew inside because she does see it.
Right. So
So
that
this is a multi-dynamic conversation here today.
Right, right. So the first thing in a scenario like that is to recognize that it takes two to tango, that each person bears some responsibility for what's happening. Because as you mentioned in that example there, he's not doing what he's supposed to do, but the other part is she's not doing what she's supposed to do. And what does that mean? Generally speaking, in today's society, women are more focused on getting things done than taking care of themselves. And taking care of yourself is actually your number one job. And I don't just mean mani-pedi. I mean your emotional self. Like if you don't value your hopes and dreams at a deep level, then you don't value yourself. And if you don't value yourself, no man ever will. And there's no amount of doing stuff that will change that. In fact, the things that you're doing are the things that are lowering your value and making the relationship worse because you're tiring yourself out. And if you're tired out and overwhelmed, overworked, exhausted, the one thing that you can do that he cannot do and he cannot get anywhere else, which is your joy, satisfaction, your what we call your magic,
Mm-hmm.
you can't access it because you're too tired, you're too overwhelmed, you're too exhausted, you're pissed at your boss, you're pissed at this, you're pissed at that, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
energy. So you're not bringing the very thing that he simply cannot, because he can get cooking, cleaning, he can get all that, he can get sex anywhere. That's
Right.
cheap. That's not valuable.
Right.
What's valuable is a woman who knows how to speak to that man, what we call speak to his heart,
Mm.
and lift him up. And here's the thing, you're not lifting him up because, he's great and you're not. You're lifting him up because once you are able to do that, to rent effectively, he will do anything and everything for you.
Oh.
He will,
Mm.
his whole life will be about making your life easier. I've been married to Lara for 24 years. And my dedication in my life on a day-to-day basis is how can I make my wife happier? How can I make her life easier? And that's not because she's saying, hey, do this, do that, or whatever. It's because
You
this
naturally want to do it.
there's
Yeah.
that natural
Right.
thing. We have clients like we had one of our coaches, her husband just bought her a electric Lexus. She didn't ask for an electric Lexus thing, but he's just
Wow.
like, that's going to be so nice for you. You're driving the kids around to different things. I
Mm.
think that'll be better for you. I want you to have a Lexus. Boom. She's got a Lexus now instead of just whatever she had before.
Mm.
And she didn't have to do anything, and I put that in quotes, but she did
Right.
have to do something, which is take care of herself, not
Right.
work herself. She's one of our coaches, so we're big
Mm.
on not overworking,
Mm.
but not overwork herself
Mm.
and allow herself to be the woman who can have a man who will bust his butt, work night and day, and just get that appreciation. That's really women. It's hard for women to realize how simple men are. Often what we see is that like our clients really appreciate that we're giving it, like if you're working with us, you're getting a man's point of view. And so one of the things that women are like, no, it's more complicated than that. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's not more complicated than that. He's
Right.
got a few things that he's focused on, a few
Well,
things that
yeah,
he's
men
thinking
are
about.
simple. It's true. They are simple. Yes.
Not easy
Women are
because it's hard for
complicated.
you to, yeah, it's hard for you to imagine that
Yeah.
that's really all. Like we had
Yeah.
one client who just asked a question in one of our Q&A calls where she was some kind of a scenario at a dinner where there was like she did something and then he looked mad. And I just told her, I'm
Mm.
100% certain that you misread that. She's like, no, no, no. We've been going out for 3 years. I know him. He was mad. I'm like, okay, here's the thing 50-50. Number one, he won't even know what you're talking about. Or number two, he'll be like, yeah, that was no big deal. That's exactly what happened. She read in his mind that he was mad, but they were at a
Mm.
dinner. He was like, no, I was just trying to figure out what to eat. That's it. He
Wow.
wasn't mad. He's like, oh, that,
Wow.
yeah,
She
it wasn't
misread
even.
it. Okay.
And that's happening all
Yes.
across America, all across the world,
Yes.
where they're
Yes.
misreading. And then if she wasn't coaching with us, she'd be like mad. Then she'd be talking to her girlfriend. Oh, yeah. And he did that. Oh, definitely. He was mad. Well, what are we going to do about that? Well, da da da. And you go off on this whole thing. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, misreading,
Yeah.
you know?
Hmm. Wow. Yes. All right. So that's, yes, that's amazing. All right. So let's get back to, so you have your heartbreak, you broke up because
Yeah.
the man cheated.
Oh,
You
yeah. I'm sorry. I wanted to.
maybe he went with a woman that is soft and he says jump and she says how high. And what happens when you go into the next relationship?
Well, here's
Because
the
a lot of times when we go out of when we what we miss in one relationship, when we go in the next one, that's what we want to fill, right?
Right, right. So the first thing is also to recognize that I started this and I think I went off on a tangent there. That it takes two to tango. So what does that mean? We have to look at in the mirror and take responsibility for our part in things. And so if we're not doing that in when we're having heartbreak, the next relationship will look a lot like the last relationship.
Mm.
Maybe not immediately, but eventually it'll end up there. Why is that? Because that's where you rend it. That's where you established, that's where you navigated it, and you're the Ren whether you know what to do or not. It's just like
Mm.
if you're sitting in the driver's seat, you're the driver. The fact that
Okay.
you don't know how to drive, that
Mm.
doesn't change anything. You're still the driver. And
Okay.
so taking responsibility for it and not thinking that the reason why he's with her is because she's like a lackey dog. And that then I don't want to be a lackey dog. Well, of course not, right? I'm smart, she's dumb. I don't want to be dumb. Well, of
Well,
course not.
that's taking responsibility. You're taking responsibility in that he couldn't handle a high achieving woman. So I'm
Well,
taking
that's
responsibility.
a no, that's a misread that's made to like said to make you feel better, but that's not the accurate thing
Okay.
because it's not that he couldn't handle this high achieving woman. It's that he doesn't want to be in a relationship with another man. And if that's how you're
Ah,
showing up, I mean,
that's important. That
right? If
is
that's how you're
true.
showing up,
That's true.
yeah,
Hmm.
right? So if what you're bringing to the table is I make good money, I got a good credit score, I got a nice house, well, all that stuff he can do. So why with you? It's the magic, the joy that a woman can have when she's well rested and enjoying herself. It can be something as simple as just doing flowers or something like that. But whatever it is, it's just having the ability to get in touch with what we call your feminine radiance. If you can't get in touch with your feminine radiance, you're just a dude. And if you're just a dude or a F buddy, right? If you're just a dude or
Mm,
just an F buddy,
mm,
he'll sleep with you, he'll spend some time with you, but it'll just
mhm.
be until a woman that he really likes comes along.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's 100% true.
Yeah, so
100%.
taking responsibility in that moment doesn't mean taking blame, but it's like recognizing, okay, if I keep crashing the car, right? If I'm always at the scene of the crime, maybe I need to get some new driving lessons, right? Or maybe I need to think differently about how I'm driving. And that's
Mm,
really what we see is there's a whole new skill to learn. Just like you probably don't do what you do professionally like now as well as you did 5 years ago. Why is that? Just because you're 5 years older? No, you put in time. You maybe read some stuff, you went to some classes, you
hmm.
studied, you talked to people, you tried to get better at it because you found it to be important. And that
Wow.
is the key. If you don't think that it's important to learn about masculine feminine dynamics, how to be an effective Ren, then you won't be good at it. And if you're not good at
Yes.
it, then it's like just rolling a dice hoping it works out.
Wow. This is great. This is great. Listen,
Yeah.
yes, I'm sure that I've been married for 18 years and I'm sure that I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Just got some staying power. But yes, and listen, I have definitely left to come to one of your events. All right, so let's talk about your program, the Feminine Radiance. I love that. Getting in touch
Hmm.
with your feminine radiance and
Mm.
Courage Institute. What's the courage for? I mean, courage to go after what you want.
It's the courage to be different. It's the
Mm,
courage to live a different life because you're going to set yourself apart. And here's the thing, the man that you want, again, talking to single ladies, right? The man that you want, he has options. You don't want the guy who nobody else wants and you're
true.
his only option. You want a
Right.
guy who has options. Well, then
Mm,
how are you going to stand out? And if you're doing what everybody else is doing, you're not going to stand out. If you're being the way everyone else is being, you're not going to stand out. So it's the courage to do something different. It's the courage to say, you know what? Actually, my relationship is important. You know what? Actually, me being the best version of myself isn't just applicable at work, it's applicable in my personal life. And so, like, we work with a lot of different professionals, doctors, lawyers. Like, you're not Dr. Susie, you're Susie who does this
right.
practicing medicine for a living, but
Hmm.
you're Susie first, not Dr. Susie. But too many people have merged that
Right.
in their minds. And so the first thing is to recognize that it takes courage to actually say, since I was 16 years old, I've had this dream of living my happily ever after with my Prince Charming, and that actually is still important to me. And actually, I kind of wish I could maybe work a little less or not be so stressed or not have everything on my shoulder. I kind of would like to have a man I could lean on and who would, I would like that. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you a woman. Like there's things that I want from my wife that I can't do myself and I don't want to do myself. And it's
Right.
not things to do. There's a certain way of being, you know? And there's a big difference between a woman that a man wants to build a life with versus a woman that a man wants to just spend some time with.
Yeah.
And so the courage of the Feminine Radiance and Courage Institute comes from being willing to say, hey, true love, marriage, and family are important to me. Just that right there sets you apart because most of the time it's said with like a weakness thing, or it's like, nah, that doesn't really matter to me, you know?
Yeah. 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 Because a lot of women are single in their 40s and their 50s or whatever, and they've given up on it
Yeah.
because they're not connecting to the right men. So this is beautiful. This is beautiful work because a lot of times these single women go through these relationships,
Mhm.
and it could have been one of the ones that they can be happily ever after with, but they did the wrong things. And the
Yeah.
man, because he's got options, I think there's 2 to 1, 2 women to 1 man. He just moves on. But yeah, if you were able to connect to someone and show them that you're different and sit back and let them wash the car and love you and you I love your scenario, and you use something that they've done for you and build on it and make them feel, because we every woman should know at least one thing, is that men love to be appreciated. So
Absolutely. What
yeah,
what
it's like
what
their
doesn't
thing,
what
right?
doesn't really register most of the time
Mm,
is they need that acknowledgement, respect, and appreciation far beyond any number of
it's true.
times that you think is reasonable. You're like, I already thanked him. Yeah, that was 3 weeks ago. What about today? But the thing happened 3 weeks ago. You
Right,
could
right,
make your
right.
relationship better by thanking him again today for the thing that he did 3 weeks ago and lift him up. Then you
Mm,
can take it a step more and do it in front of other people. So now when you're out with friends, you're like, you know what Joe did for me? He did this thing, da 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 da. He's so
aw,
awesome. I'm so lucky to be with this man. That man is puffing his chest.
wow.
And then he's like, what can I do for this woman? Because when I do things for her, she acknowledges me
I'm
in
learning stuff
public,
today.
right?
Wow.
Or what's happening in
Mhm.
most relationships is the woman is taking every opportunity to cut that man down.
Yeah,
And the thing you
right.
have to understand is that the world's already doing that. The world's kicking that
Yeah,
man's butt every single day. He's going into work, and whether he's got his own business or he works for someone,
yeah,
the world is kicking his butt, and he's feeling like he's
yeah.
failing. So if he comes home and he feels like he's failing,
Feeling.
what's the use? What's the
Wow.
right? And
Wow.
so when you mentioned earlier about women who are in their 40s and 50s, and what we see is every decade past age 30, us human beings just get a little bit more stuck in our ways. And so that happens with like, temperature, foods, clothes, whatever. Like, I don't like any clothes that have tags that bother me, you know? Like, so I could deal with it when I was younger, but now I'm just like, no, if it's got a
Right,
tag, I either cut it out or I can't wear that clothes.
right.
So we all do that, right? Well, here's the thing. If you're going about your dating and relationship life the same way in your 40s and 50s as you did in your 20s and 30s, then there's going to be a mismatch there. And so we have to recognize I'm getting a little more stuck in my ways. And so what's happening is the past relationship experiences are more likely to happen in the future because you're more stuck unless there's an intervening outside force where there's a
Mhm.
change. Like physics, a body emotion will stay at or a body at rest will stay at rest unless
Yes,
acted
right.
upon by an outside force. And
Yes.
so like for us, like we are that outside force. Like there's a whole other universe of learning and success that you can get to, but you
Mhm.
have to recognize, hey, I played a part. I'm not saying that you're to blame for a relationship going south, but I played a part in
Great
that.
part.
So what
Yes.
part did I play, and how could I
Yes.
be better at my part so that either with this guy, which is usually the die is cast and that's it,
Right.
but
It's
with the
gone.
next guy, how can
Mhm.
I show up as a better version of myself? Again, not putting you down, saying you're a bad person, but all of us want to get better, right? I want to be a
Trust
better
me.
driver. I
Hey,
want to be a
we're
better,
not renting.
yeah,
We don't know what to do, and I certainly don't know what to do. So that's amazing. I would love to come to one of your events so that I can make my marriage better. So tell us about your website. Tell us about your in-person events. Tell us about your social media. So yeah, 'cause this is good
sure.
stuff.
Yeah. The easiest way to learn everything about us is to go to our website, radianceencourage.com. And there you'll see all about it. There's case studies there. You can see when is our latest event, but you can also just sign up for our newsletter, and then we'll share information. We have special deals on the live events and things like that. But what we are not an alternative to books and things like that. We're a step up from that. Like, just like you're not going to learn to swim from reading a book, right?
Right.
There's certain things that you got to
Got
go
it.
beyond the book. And
Mhm.
usually people have tried those things already, right? Again, I'm not hating on books. Books are great, but it's just like if you're not getting the results that you want to step it up. And yes, there will be the inconvenience, the expense, all of that. But mostly, like coming to a live event is mostly an emotionally difficult thing because you're showing up for 2 days to learn something and you may think, oh, they're going to point a finger at me, tell me I'm wrong and bad and I screwed this up. And that's not what it is. Because we know that, like you mentioned ladies in their 40s, 50s, 60s, it's not too late. Our oldest client came to us at 76, 76. But she said, look,
Wow.
I've traveled around the
I
world.
like it. She's
Yeah,
not
she
giving
said,
up
I've
hope.
traveled around the world. She's raised children and all this stuff. She goes, but I know that I don't have what you guys have. Just tell me what to do. She followed our plan. We have a well-proven path over 20 years now. And she got married in a short period of time, married and lived her happily ever after. Um, but
That is
she was
good.
serious. You have to be serious. Like you have to take your dream seriously. We all know people in college that
Mhm.
didn't graduate because they just didn't take it that
No.
seriously, you
Yeah,
know?
they didn't.
Right?
They didn't put
So
in the work.
they didn't put in
Everything
the
you
work,
got to
and
put in the work. For
that's
every
it.
success in life, you got to put in the work. A lot of
Right.
people think marriages are work. People think that marriages is just walking down the aisle in a beautiful dress. But yeah, marriage
Yeah.
is a lot of work.
It's work. And what we say is
Mhm.
if you now years ago, you and I are probably old enough to remember this. Years ago, there was a TV ad on for Fram oil air filters, and the mechanic said, yes, it costs money to change your air filter, but if you don't change your air filter, now it's going to cause you problems with your engine
The
later.
engine.
So
Right.
you're either going to pay me now or you're going to pay me
Pay
later.
me later.
So
Yes.
the
Yes.
reason why I share that is because, do you remember that? That was a while ago,
No, I
right?
don't remember it,
No?
but
Okay.
I know the
But
concept.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So that concept. So marriage is a lot of work. What we say is the more work that you put in up front to
Yes.
be the right person and to be with the right person, then the
Yes.
less work it is down the
It's true.
line. But
It's
either
true.
way, you're gonna put in work. So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
it's very common to put in work after the fact. We're having trouble. Let's go to marriage counseling, that kind
Mhm.
of stuff. But what about putting in the work beforehand so you can make sure you're with the right person and
Yeah.
make sure you are the right person?
Well,
That's what
it's
we say.
we didn't touch on it, but in your bio, you said that you grew up in a household with domestic violence, drug abuse, and dysfunction, and now you're deeply passionate about people choosing the right man. Because a lot of times we choose the wrong man and woman, and then we've got to play, fix it. But you're right.
Yeah,
If you choose the right person to hook up with, then you're right. It's not going to be as much work to maintain the marriage. But
absolutely.
regardless, there's still work that you've got to do every day. So,
Absolutely. We have a saying in our community, we don't do fixer uppers. So yeah, we don't do fixer uppers. So
all
yeah.
right. So that's Johnny, this was a fantastic conversation. I love it that, I'm not repeating the same thing. I've had this conversation about love several
Mhm.
times, but we went on a totally different path today, and
Oh,
I
good.
learned
Okay.
something new, and the listeners are learning something new,
Good.
and absolutely beautiful. So your website is radianceencourage.com. When they go on that website, they can sign up for your newsletter, which you said, you have specials on the online of, the in-person events. Hey,
Yeah.
I want to be on there. I want to come visit you. And where is
Right.
this? You're in Arizona, I think you told
We're
me?
in Arizona, but we do
Okay.
them all over the country. We
Okay.
did one recently in Atlanta. We're going to be in Dallas. We're going to be in San Jose, California. We're going to be in New York. So we do them all over the country in different places. So, but we have ladies that have traveled from outside of the U.S. There's only one continent that we've never had a client from, and that's Antarctica. But every other
I
continent
was
we've
going to say
had.
China.
No, no, we've had women from
China.
Asia for
Wow.
sure. Yeah, and
Yes.
Australia, which
Right.
is rough, and like
Sort of.
Brazil, southern, it takes like 2 days to erupt to travel to us. And anyway, we've had
Right.
women from all
No, no,
over.
no. Hey, but that is, but listen, if you hear this stuff, you have dreams, you want to listen, happiness is the fundamental thing that everybody wants. In order to be happy, you usually need to have be in a relationship with someone. So if you can fix your relationships, then you're happy. And you're right. Don't give up on the dream. Right? If you're in a marriage and you got to do the fixer upper, then do it. But you're right.
Mhm.
It's better to if you're single and you're in the dating world, which is basically the most of your clients, then
Mhm.
you figure out what to do so that you don't suffer later on. And our conversation was supposed to go around heartbreak, but we diverted and we talked about the masculine and feminine energy. But
Yeah,
yes, once you get that right, then you're not going to have to worry about the heartbreak and the breakup and all that because you're going to have
absolutely.
a beautiful life fulfilling relationship. So
Absolutely.
amazing. Everybody wants that.
Everybody, and you know what? The studies show that the number one determinant of your happiness and fulfillment in life is your primary romantic relationship.
Yes,
More so than money, more so than
I know.
house,
Yep.
more so
I
even
even
than
I
health,
even
which
have
I
the
was,
statistics. It's
yeah.
85% of your happiness comes from that. Yes.
There you go. There you
Big
go.
number.
Yeah,
It's a big number. Right.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Well,
Excellent.
Johnny,
Well, thank you
this
so
is
much for having me. It's been a really great conversation.
yeah, yes. I totally, totally enjoyed it. And not only it wasn't for entertainment value either. You put down some really good nuggets here. And anyone that's listening could see where the fault lies with not understanding how to deal with men and because that's what we're doing. We're talking to women and why are you not getting the response from the men that you should be getting? And listen, this is good stuff. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. I'm definitely gonna, sign up for your newsletter and come out and visit.
All right.
When you have an in-person event, it's one of my goals to do more of these things in the coming year. So definitely, I will do that.
All
What is
right.
your social media handle?
The Johnny Fernandez on Facebook, and I don't do other stuff. I'm on
Okay,
Instagram, but I don't do anything. So,
okay,
and my wife, who does more social media stuff, Lara, she's Dr. Lara Fernandez. So DRLARA Fernandez, F as in Frank, ERNANDEZ. She's Dr. Lara Fernandez on Facebook, and I think she's just Dr. Lara on Instagram. But if you get to one of us, you'll get the other
the
one.
other one,
You can kind
right?
of follow us. I'm a basketball fan, so you're going to see a lot of stuff about the Warriors, but I also put things about our clients because I'm super passionate about it and very
Mm.
grateful to be able to do this work and help women really create the life of their dreams. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. I can't say it enough. This
All
was a
right.
fantastic conversation. So thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode. Today we're talking to Johnny Fernandez, expert love coach. And hey, let's underline that expert because he is definitely expert. So go ahead and sign up for the newsletter. I mean, not only, he's going to give discounts on in-person events, but I'm pretty sure his newsletter is full of information that you can use to help you with your love life and dating.
Absolutely.
Yes, I'm sure. And why have a newsletter if you're not going to have information on it?
Exactly.
So, yes, I definitely would encourage you if you're single and even if you're married, because I'm sure we don't know all the details of how we as women can show up as our best self and get the most out of our men.
Hmm.
So, yes, thank you, Johnny, for being on the show. I will have a summary conversation of our conversation, an article on the show page, which is myhelps.us. And I will link out to Johnny's website and his Facebook page. And also, so, you can head over to the show page if you wanted to get that link. But yes, love my work,
Right.
love what I do, love
Well,
these
thank you.
conversations.
Yeah, well, Myrna, thank you so much for having me here. It's a great conversation, and I really want to acknowledge you, the listener, for wanting to better yourself and better your life. And Myrna's a great guide to take you and help you with that. So I'm glad to be here, and I hope I've contributed something.
Oh my goodness, you dropped a boatload.
All right, all right. There you
And
go.
I'm the first learner.
All
It
right,
comes through me.
right on, right on.
Yes. All right. Well, listen, guys, thanks again. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is such a great conversation to, make comments and, give us your feedback. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, we'd love for you to rate and review. I bring you expert guests every week, and I would love for you to, to give a rating so that the show reaches more people. Thanks again for tuning in. Thank you, Johnny, for being on the show. Until next time, namaste.
My pleasure. Peace and blessings.
Thanks.